Remember when you were a kid and there were things you were afraid of that you were certain were legitimate fears, like quicksand, or getting kidnapped from your bed in the nighttime, or somehow getting sucked up into outer space? I don't know, maybe that one was just me. But I swear, I spent 99% of my childhood watching out for quicksand. And I think that's probably pretty common because it really features in a lot of cartoons. And then I became an adult, you know, and what do you know, quicksand is not a thing. It's just not something that exists in most of the world. Well, there are some fears that writers have that are just as unfounded as some of these fears that kids have. And in this video, I'm going to unpack 3 of them. So here are 3 things you don't need to worry about as a writer, even though the world tells you that you do. Let's go. Okay, speaking of childhood fears, now that I'm a parent, I watch my 4-year-old adopt his own version of childhood fears that are not real things, including lava burning his feet, accidentally hunting a whale, and being on an airplane and tipping over. And noticing these is actually what got me thinking about the writer equivalents. What are writers afraid of that they don't really need to be? Immediately, for me, a few came to mind. So here are 3 common fears I hear from new writers that they don't actually need to worry about. Unfounded fear number 1 is thinking that someone is going to steal your writing. Years ago, a colleague at the company where I was working asked if I would look at his short story, and I agreed. Later that day, a password-protected PDF showed up in my inbox, and to be honest, my eyes pretty much rolled out of my head. Listen, I'm not saying you should not take your work seriously, but even if you are Margaret Atwood, no one actually wants to steal your work. Like, don't you know, writers, aren't you one yourself? We are tormented by imposter syndrome as it is. We are mired in self-doubt and cursed with the affliction of needing to write. If what we actually wanted was to pretend someone else's writing was our own, we probably would have done that already. Also, very few people who do this don't get caught. Right? It's what you call a dumb crime, given that there's always a paper or digital trail confirming the identity of the actual author, and it's very easy to find these things on the internet now. Also, very little to me seems more disgraceful than being publicly called out for plagiarism. Also, you have other actual things to be worried about, plenty of them, and so someone stealing your work and passing it off as their own just doesn't need to be one of them. Unfounded fear number 2 is thinking you need to develop a social media following before you have written your book. Okay, recently my right-hand gal Harrison said something that struck me as profoundly insightful, which is not uncommon for her. She does that a lot. She said, people often think tech work is easy because it sounds like it would be, because it involves a computer, which people think is very smart and does things for you, but it's not. Tech work is not easy. And I feel the same way about social media. We often talk about social media like all it takes to do it well is like a little time and elbow grease. You know, you make an account, throw up a post or 2, and it'll be great. You'll be good at it. I actually think a better way of looking at social media is to compare it to literally learning a new language, since that's what it is. It's a language. You know, you're not gonna learn Spanish in a night or even a few weeks, and you aren't gonna be good at Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok until you've spent a lot of time there over a long period. So when people talk about needing to develop a social media following, it is sometimes discussed as if it's like deciding whether you're gonna mow your lawn once a week, when really it's like saying, should I learn Arabic so that I'm fluent within the next 4 months? I mean, sure, go for it, but this is not gonna be a small undertaking, which is why there are entire jobs dedicated to running social media accounts, and they're tough jobs. But here's the good news is that you don't need to be doing that now anyway. Write your book first, and you can worry about promotion later. I have one more unfounded fear to share with you, but before I do, quick invitation. I have a free private group for writers working on books where once a month, I host a live event where I plan out the first third of a new novel from scratch. It's super fun. It's improv meets novel writing, and you'll learn my tricks by watching and participating. You can join this event, 30,000 words in 30 minutes, watch Mary plan the first third of a novel from scratch, at the link below this video. So back to it. Our third and final unfounded fear is worrying that your writing isn't good enough for you to write a book. Okay, my husband used to be a voice teacher, and early in our relationship, I asked him to make me a great singer. So I stood next to the keyboard in our little Queens apartment while he played scales and I sang notes. And he would interrupt me to tell me to change my sound. He would have me make these sounds where I'd have to manipulate my jaw, and they just sounded ugly. He was getting me to explore how my voice worked, but I didn't like the sounds I was making. They were not pretty, and I was impatient. I just wanted to sound good. So our first and only voice lesson lasted under 10 minutes because ultimately I didn't want to be a good singer badly enough to push through sounding bad before I could sound good. You can't write a fourth draft of your book when you are writing a first draft. If you try, you won't write any drafts. On a first draft, your goal is to get the story down. Later, you'll worry if the writing is good enough. And we can make it good enough. That's entirely possible. People do that all the time. But if you're worrying about that now, you're likely not to get it done at all. If you're still watching, I'm guessing maybe you're writing a book or you want to write a book. And if so, I have something for you. A couple of years ago, I created the 4 notebooks method. It's my process for handwriting a novel across 4 notebooks. It's a strategy for mapping out your story structure in a way that doesn't lock you into an outline or suck all the freedom out of the writing process. So if you'd like to learn this method and get a free digital template for writing your novel, go to the link below this video. You just have to apply for my program, the Book Incubator. The application is only 2 questions. It'll take under 5 minutes, and you get the template right away, whether you join or not. There's no pressure to enroll. So just click below to tell me a little bit about you and your book or your book idea. I'm excited to hear from you.